Oh, the weather outside is frightful.
But inside is so delightful.
It's Christmas in July.
Let's review.
Let's review
Let's review.
Season 7.
Bum.
Bum.
My God, Dragon, if Christmas in July were a kid, we'd already be sending them off to their first day of school. That's terrifying. We've been doing this for so long, Dragon. So, all right. In spite of all the old jokes, folks, it's time to get into essentially our vanity project of this season of Christmas in July because, Dragon, oh man, the show that we're talking about, this episode is so good, and I just rewatching this, I'm sorry, Dragon, I have to gush a little bit here, and I'm sure you share the sentiments with me. Especially taking season 2 of Kidding. We're talking about Kidding, season 2, episode 1, The Cleanest Liver in Columbus, Ohio. Uh, Kidding being the Jim Carey project with him playing a Mr. Rogers type whose life has gone awry. Dragon, this is such an underrated show. And watching this episode, I'm just reminded of how well structured it is, how everything is just so set up, and really this episode, I mean, it's a fantastic standalone Christmas episode to be sure. Although I wouldn't exactly call it standalone because there's a lot of setup we have to get to, but it's a wonderful, like, you know, you can watch it in context and have a nice experience with it. But it sets up so much in season 2, Dragon. It gets the ball rolling for so much in season 2. So it's a great standalone story within the Kidding universe that also stands as just like I don't know. There's just so much good stuff about this. Of course, you and I both love the editing on it. The transitions are wonderful, and just folks, we can talk until we're blue in the face about how underrated Kidding is and how much people need to check it out. It's probably Jim Carrey's best performance ever when you break it down to just objective acting, one way or another. And I don't know, Dragon. What are your thoughts?
Again, I adore this show so much. I mean, next to Better Call Saul, I think probably the best thing's been produced on television the last couple of years. My God, I adore Kidding, and I keep seeing comments. It's impossible to find videos from season 2 of Kidding. If you look on YouTube, it's like a quick little pull up for the thing. I'm trying to get the show on the second season on DVD, which I can only do through Amazon. Which is like the show is not even getting the home release it deserves, man. It's so frustrating. And the show's so good. It's just such a well worked kind of masterpiece of narrative. Narratively, I'm so head over heels for the show, and season 2 is even better than 1. I never even thought I'd be able to say that because 1 is already so great, and 2, even just starting from there, has got even better. And I echo Tiki's sentiments in that episode 1, I was so, imagine this, being so hyped and won over by the first season of Kidding. Then you go into season 2 and it starts off like this. I mean, I was in heaven, man. I mean, my God, it was just everything was laid out so perfectly, narrative-wise. It sets up everything for the season, which is what I learned from the first season of King. That it's like by the end, everything just it's the most. The quote Peter Gould from Better Call Saul. It's like it's the Swiss egg and the Fabergé watch effect. You know, it's we'll play on the whole Fabergé egg Swiss watch. Anyway, the point being, it all fits perfectly. It all comes together. It all calls itself back. It all circles back to the very beginning of it all. And this is like all about the arc of Jeff Pickles and like kind of like the journey that he goes on for season 2. It's utterly wonderful. Now I should make a note that Kidding, the first season of Kidding, just to add a little bit of context here for the people I'm sure have probably not seen the season. I mean, there might just be. I like to say there are some Uber fans, and every time I see a video online, like a little clip from Kidding, you look in the comments, like everyone's like, "Oh man, this is a really good show." It's like, yes, where were you before? Yes,
Right, right.
it's like yes, more. Yeah. Anyway, the point being. My point is, the end of Kidding, very much kind of the last couple episodes of Kidding was very much building towards the Christmas season. Kind of starts in November onward. And again, we could have gone with the very end of Kidding, but there's really a big standout scene at Christmas, which is the Christmas tree lighting ceremony, which is wonderful.
Oh no! Make no mistake. This is the Christmas episode.
I know it is. I know this is the Christmas episode. What I'm saying is like there were like really great build-ups to Christmas towards the end. Like we had like the big Christmas hot toy, the hot toy of the Christmas season. I believe it was like what I think it's Talk to Me Pickles. It was called.
Yeah,
And we have that, and then of course we had the Christmas tree lighting ceremony. Two wonderfully genius scenes, and of course this is the big culmination of all that build up. And it's so funny because you realize, oh yeah, the last episode, because it's building towards Christmas, was on Christmas Eve, which is really heady when you're in the thick of it. Like, oh my god, and it all just timed out so perfectly. Unfortunately, the airing again, this show caught no breaks. And the airing of this, it was supposed to be November of 2019, but Watchmen bumped it off because Showtime was afraid of Watchmen on HBO.
I mean, really, like we're like the outliers of people who would be in both the audiences for those two shows. You know what I mean? Like, I really don't think the two shows have much competition with each other.
Well, my point is, Kidding not getting the respect they deserve to be able to keep their date. Where again, it would have timed out. Hey, in November, where the Christmas setting is, this would have timed out perfectly. To we're going to move it to February of next year because why not? Because we're Showtime, and we just threw our hands up in the air. I don't know. The show's too good. We can't. People aren't going to watch this. We got to shuffle it aside. It's the cosmic ruling of the universe for some reason. Anyway, the point being, I think you can feel the love in the room for this show. So all that said. Let's just dive into it. What do you say?
All right. Well, first of all, Dragon, I think in this situation, we don't usually do this with Christmas in July, but I think we need a little bit of a recap on your end to catch us up to where we are now.
Okay. So, yeah, you're right, because there's the one really important thing that happens at the start of this.
Right.
Probably should. Right. Also, folks, just in case you're curious, we did.
So Mr. Rogers has hit a man with his car.
Yeah, okay, so we should just also, in case anyone really wants to hear us fully go into Kidding, we did 2 podcasts on both seasons, on the first season and the second season. If you want to check those out, they're there. I mean, again, we cover all the episodes, so check that out if you like what we're saying here. Anyway, so Kidding Season 1 essentially builds on the premise of, okay, what if you had Jim Carrey as Mr. Rogers in the world today? It was kind of like the posited question at the end of Won't You Be My Neighbor? Like, what if would Mr. Rogers be able to cut it in the world today? So we kind of posit that with Jim Carrey as Jeff Pickles, who's been in the business for 30 years. On his 30th year, his son dies, and basically the first season is him processing the grief of the death of his son, which he was not able to do around the Christmas season. So you can see how it's all relative now. Anyway. So basically, he's kind of he's on the outs with his son. He kind of won over by the end of the season, but you kind of have like a real life Mr. Rogers moment where basically all the kids are lying around the block after he makes his big declaration on the Christmas tree lighting ceremony. All the kids are lined up, and his son has to wait in line to talk to his own father.
Yeah, that was a really well composed scene.
Importantly, with the big Christmas tree lighting ceremony declaration, which again, folks, if you can only check out one thing to know what we're talking about, check out that Christmas tree lighting speech. That is like one of the clips you can find on YouTube rather easily, as I recommend it anyway. Point being, he patches things up with his wife, who again was very much, she grieved alone, because again, he was by his father, who unfortunately, folks, as much as we love Kidding, Seb Picarello, he's not in this episode. I'd love to talk about him. He's not in this episode. So this recap is the only one we'll talk about. And point being, Frank Langella, a wonderful characterization of a father who loves his son, but he's also the manager of the Jeff Puppet Time, Mr. Pickles Puppet Time, and which essentially is he forced him into the business versus allowing him to grieve publicly, because as he said, Jeff Pickles and Mr. Pickles never the twain should meet, never the two personalities should combine, never should the public see that Mr. Pickles is on the precipice of divorce and that his son died. We should never acknowledge this on air. So the point being, all that aside, they worked through all those issues in season 1. By the end of it, Jill's he's back to being friends with Jeff, which is what he wanted, which is really, everything's turn up Millhouse for Jeff Pickles. But then the man in his ex-wife's life that was kind of driving a little crazy in the sense of he introduced he was encouraging his son's pot habit, his marijuana habit. His son, basically he didn't discourage it, which really got him his nerves. As we learned in the last episode of last season, Jeff Pickles is very anti-drug, at least at the start. Well, Tiki knows where it goes, but you know what I mean. He was very anti-drug and did a number of drug PSAs, which had a really great thematic payoff of the first season. That thematic payoff ultimately ended up with Peter learned that Jeff Pickles had bought the house next door to his wife. Basically, again, not for a sick and twisted purpose, at least not entirely. I should say not entirely. He said he wanted to be close to his family and kind of look over and be there for him in case something happened. And he shouldn't have, and he kept it secret, which was the problem. And Peter found this out. They had a really remarkable heart-to-heart. They had a remarkable heart-to-heart about that. Like, no one was angry. It wasn't like a tropey, like, I'm going to tell her, I'm going to kick your butt, man. Like, none of that. It was like, they had this really glorious heart-to-heart, but then he offered him a joint, which set Jeff off. Got in his car, and again, the whole season put upon that Jeff Pickles is such a moral guy. He's always doing the right thing. And then he's been a powder keg. He's been building, oh, God, he's going to snap. He's going to snap. And, of course, you think, okay, until he snaps and he runs Peter over with the car. Like, bam, hits the windshield, hits the ground. Then we're left with what happens next. Jeff Pickles, there's no going back. That's that's the promise of season 1 of Kidding. So I've gone on long enough. Let's get into season 2.
Okay. So, Dragon, we start on June 21st, 2003, a very important date. Mark it down, kids. We see a very timely kind of digital recording, kind of a camcorder recording of Jill and Jeff's wedding via the Dalai Lama. This show is so fucking weird, Dragon. No one's going to get into this podcast who hasn't watched this show. Who are we kidding?
But again, it's so funny. After everything I hear, even the people had the tough selling, and once they got into the show, they loved it. After they got past the first episode, they loved it.
All right.
Anyway, point being, again, as I said, season 1 about the loss of the son. So what I love about this opening is that season 2 goes further back into the origins of family, which, of course, is the love he has for Jill, which is kind of coached the whole season 2, which we kind of focus on with, again, we had the big cliffhanger of, oh, God, he just hit a man with his car, and yet we go back to the love, which is important in driving. Just looking at this episode by itself is driving Jeff's decision-making. Like, this is the status quo that he loved.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what's on the line for him. So again, I love how we're basically in like the wedding vows to economize a little bit here. It's like love is to tackle any challenge together, which of course Jeff and Jill are going to be forced to do yet again, and really excellently edited montage in this sequence in the episode. And they share a glass of champagne, which is important because of course it's a little bit of foreshadow for a really huge payoff. Really full circle payoff with the episode title itself, Cleanest Liver in Columbus, Ohio. And let's see. So of course, this I call in the rewatch. Love last as long as it takes. May your love last as long as it takes for you to put the glass back together. Which again, a little Kensuke reference for Kidding.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, so of course he smashes the glass, which leads to this amazing literalized smash cut from him stepping on the glass Mazel Tov style to hitting Peter with the car.
Okay, Dragon, the transitions in this episode are just phenomenal. Phenomenal.
So great.
I mean, really. So, okay, so we're really feeling the tension here. Jeff is just kind of like, he's just sitting with himself, just kind of like stewing on what he's done, and then his cell phone rings, Dragon, and then God, he opens it up, and Oh Holy Night is singing, a children's choir singing Oh Holy Night.
I love how fate interrupts him in this moment. That's the way it comes across. He hears like Oh Holy Night on the phone after he's done this unholy action. And of course, now again, folks, you're not going to know this until you watch season 2. I won't give away all the stuff here, but Bobby Belongo is the man who's calling. He has an important role by the end of things. So the man who's calling from the South Bend chapter of the Pickles platoon. He has an important role, but not for a while. So just file that away. So yeah, so the children, basically, the idea is the kids in kind of the Mr. Pickles Boy Scout troop, or like children's scout group of it all. They Cub Scout, I guess. They're basically, if you get enough points, you get to wish Mr. Pickles a Merry Christmas yourself personally, which they do. And again, we're kind of the whole arc of the whole thing is season 2, and mainly in this episode is Jeff Pickles is framed much like Mr. Rogers was constantly, and his wife always corrected people on. Mr. Rogers, he doesn't like the saint comparison. Jeff Pickles is contending with how does a Mr. Rogers type contend with the saint-like comparison in a day and age where social media would blow that up and they would never go away. Like when people are compared to a saint, that's not going away, and there's like the eye's always going to be on, and the pressure's always going to be on, and the reminder that you are a saint. We say this, therefore it must be, and that's
Mr. Rogers, man. I mean, he would not have been able to survive this Twitter era, man. He really just Jesus Christ.
See, that's what I'm saying, and
the thing's going down right now.
And that's what that's what I love about season 2 as a whole, where it's all about this whole like can you live up to the saint and savior comparison, which again would drive, if you're a human person that's very fallible, it's an insane ideal to keep up, which is why Mr. Rogers avoided that.
Uh-huh.
So basically, this call comes in. It kind of I always attest that call reminded Jeff of that responsibility, that moral responsibility, and just his morals. That I can't just drive away. I can't just like let him die. I can't just like not do the right thing in the moment here. Um, so like Danny wishes him a Merry Christmas on the phone. Like, have you been a good boy this year? And of course, that's the wake up call right there. So then he knocks on Jill's door, and like Jill's in a good place right now. She's looking at the hat, like her dead son's baseball hat again. She's kind of moving on in life. It's like she's in a good place, and all that comes crashing down. So Jeff's at the door. He was on drugs, which again I love. There's
That's
truth.
great. That's
Here's
great.
the thing: it's truth within the lie. He was on drugs.
Yeah.
But again, they have the lie angle where again he's still withholding the truth, and again lying and the whole withholding the truth is going to be a huge part of the episode later on. Okay, so then Jill goes into nurse mode, which she is, and she kind of helps instruct him how to save the day here.
Mm-hmm. He's just she's just kind of like barking instructions at him, just like telling him what to say over the phone. And she's asking him if he's okay. He's like, "Are you talking to me? You were in a car accident. Yes. Are you okay? No. Or yes, but thanks for asking."
I love how Jim Carrey plays this scene. I love how Jeff is out of it because again he's kind of processing the implications of the action that he's done, and it's an action that again the whole season, the whole series has been built on. Jeff Pickles has done actions that have easily been taken back. This is the first time it's an action that may not be able to be taken back. Like he might not be able to get away with scot-free this time. And like, I did this, and Jill, she writes it off instantly as ambient. The universe is yet again. It's like the good karma of Jeff Pickles is trying to strike again. Like, oh, he was on Ambien. He's like all the outs in the world right now. Yet again, it's like he knows that he's done this.
Yeah.
All right, so then he snaps out of it. Says, in 20 minutes, he's going to bleed out. I need you, Jeff, which is the words he wants to hear. I need you. Help me. So do we still have the toboggan? Basically, they make this kind of makeshift toboggan stretcher, like a little sledding toboggan, and they ride him to the hospital. Of course, before that happens, though, we have Will getting dumped by his kind of girlfriend as
this was like the worst subplot in season 1, and I'm so glad that it just got like pushed under the rug pretty damn quick.
I know. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, again, that was the only hiccup in the first season. They fixed it too. The sky's the limit.
Right.
Anyways, the point being, as they witness the chaos kind of going down below, it's like, I think we should see other people. Like, oh, okay. So, anyways, and then we.
I love the shot where Jeff's just like running to get into the car, and then the whole neighborhood's fucking watching him, man. Oh God.
Of course, this is perfect. It's like,
I love just like there is absolutely like there is no certainty that someone didn't see him at all. You know what I mean? There is like you cannot be sure about that whatsoever. It's always going to be lingering in your head.
But I love how he takes this again. The Jeff Pickles, as we learn later in the season, he's all about not traumatizing kids. So I love how he kind of. Here's the thing. He turns a traumatizing moment into something with a positive spin where it's like, don't do drugs. We turn this, not a trauma, but a lesson. I just love that he's trying to put a positive spin on a really cynical moment. All right, so, okay, let's see. So Jeff is, he's starting to reassure Peter and everything. Peter, you're going to be okay. Then he hits a Santa Claus. So again, we have one icon hitting another icon.
This is like a little bit of classic comedic Jim Carrey coming out right here. Oh, it's just Santa.
But I love the symbolism in that. It's symbolic that it's just Santa. Again, the one icon calling out another icon. Oh yeah, I was ran over Santa, but he was a fake Santa. Okay, so then he kicks out the windshield. So basically, what they're doing is they're like she's telling him they're doing. They have this routine that we learn in a really excellent sequence that's about to unfold, where they're distracting. They're trying to distract from the chaos of the situation by they're talking like left turn, right turn, all this sort of stuff as they're directing their way to the hospital. Jill asks for Jeff's hand, and he's basically, keep your hand on his neck so he can feel a pulse. Obviously, if things stop, I gotta go in the Uber nurse mode, and I gotta save him. So, of course, they go by the red light, and I love the cosmic significance of this red light. The same light.
Oh God, I know. It's haunting. It's like it's like the perverse version of the green light from The Great Gatsby. It just kind of like casts a shadow over the whole series.
It's like Jill saying, "This effing light! Stop with this effing light!" It's like in the cosmic tormentor of the Picarello family is that stupid traffic light. Anyway, so this leads to a brilliant. Oh my god, the editing of this. Oh, so we have the brilliant past and present drive to the hospital sequence. Take the reins, man. Take the reins.
Okay, so God, yeah. So, like you said, it transitions really fast into daytime, and they're driving past that same stoplight, and a very pregnant Jill, about to burst, is in the back seat. Jim Carrey's trying to get her to the hospital. It's gonna be okay, Mom. Just fucking drive faster.
I realized yet another awesome thing about the episode, like the emphasis on mom, and of course later on the emphasis on dad.
Dad. Yeah, I caught that.
Yeah, it's great. It's
so
even
so many webs that this thing weaves.
Okay, anyway, so again, I like that I love the juxtaposition here, the life of a pregnant couple versus the near death of a divorced couple, essentially. So of course, like the little astronauter thing, like, well, remember astronauter would say take a calming, no, he'd say me. So,
adorable.
And again, it's astronauter present. Course, by the end of things, also present.
And then, oh my god, this transition right here into them rushing in with Peter on the toboggan in the present day, just Jesus Christ.
Just excellent. And again, folks, when I use the Better Call Saul comparison, I'm using it lightly. I mean, this show really earns, like, again, it's the only thing that could ever like measure up to Better Call Saul would be Kidding in terms of like how great a show can be. And they did in 2 seasons. There's something more impressive about that in a respect.
I would argue Barry too. I think Barry's up there.
You're right, but then we're complicated. Now it's 3 shows. It's like
I'm just saying.
You're right. Barry is also really good. But anyway, so back to the thing here. So Deidre and Scott.
Barry.
I know, it's great. So Deidre and Scott. So of course, I should have mentioned this too. Jeff Pickles has a sister, so Deidre. Deidre and Scott, without getting the nitty gritty of season 1.
Oh God, yeah, we really just Jesus Christ. This is another situation where it's like if we explain the nitty gritty of it, people will be like, "What?"
Okay, just to focus on what's important here. Scott's a little closeted, but he's basically in denial that he's gay, and importantly, this is kind of what's for other reasons that are too bizarre to really fully get into. They're on the precipice of divorce, which essentially they're breaking the news to their daughter Maddie. That's all you need to know. So it's Christmas Eve. The implication during the tree lighting ceremony too was that Deidre, because she's wrapped up in the potential divorce, do you think she forgot to give Maddie her Christmas gifts, and then Scott had to pick up the large amount of like the Christmas stuff here? Because it looked like Deidre forgot, and then basically once she realized I'm going to get a divorce, either she hightailed it to the stores and got everything she wanted because, oh God, I have to break horrible news to this kid. I'm going to get everything she wants on her list despite me forgetting. Or do you think Scott just did most of the legwork?
I have not done that much thinking about it, Dragon, honestly. I mean, the only thing I got from the scene is that they basically checked off everything on the list to soften the blow of the bad news, but I didn't give that much thought about it.
Well, the important thing is they're overcompensating any way to slice it. The point being they're overcompensating because they're about to demystify the holiday for the kid, which is horrible.
All right, and I'm now just realizing that they're giving her, among other things, an axe and a George Foreman grill.
Which, again, she won. And, again, I love that within the Picarello family, again, the idea is that, again, while they try, especially in Jeff's side of things, there's still, there are flaws and there are things, there are, like, warning signs within their kids that they're not seeing. Especially on Deidre's side of things. And, again, we saw, like, later in the season, you kind of see the point of origin for this sort of stuff with the Picarello family and the mother and the father and that sort of stuff, anyway. So Scott in denial about being gay. We have like some fun things. Basically, he's overemphasizing. Well, what happens is, there's a stress between when 2 heterosexual people no longer have a relationship that's feasible. What does feasible mean? It's Japanese for excitement. It's like just great dialogue. It's just ridiculous. And what about where's Mr. Pickleson? Folks, I can't get into it. Just
oh God.
The only thing you need to know is, again, during the Christmas tree lighting ceremony, he said, like, essentially Admiral Akbar said, like, I know it's not actually Admiral Akbar, but that was the shorthand joke. He said something like, he said a positive greeting that was misinterpreted after Mr. Pickles gives a really dour speech. It's like, oh, tackle him, and they most likely did what Scott jokes here, like, oh, he's probably in Guantanamo Bay. He's like, yeah, he is probably in Guantanamo Bay, and it's terrible because that poor Pickles son, he wanted so little coming here.
Oh God.
Anyway, so Jeff calls, and then says, I think I killed Peter, which instantly tells Deidre, okay, we knew this was coming. Red flag. Okay, I gotta go. Okay,
Yeah.
We're trying to kid gloves the whole divorce thing. She's okay. I gotta cut to it here. She gives the abridged version. We're getting a divorce. Again, the wonderful Catherine Keener, by the way. We should also shout her out too. She's great in the show. So we're getting a divorce. Can I open another present? Sure. Of course, then Dad gives her gives her the axe. Doesn't get rid of her. Just gives her the axe. But it says like, "I love you, axe." Which,
oh God.
Oh God! It's again, divorce broke the pickle house, and yet again, divorce is going to continue to break the pickle house. Okay, so let's see. So Deidre is supporting Jeff. She's in the hospital. We cut to the hospital, and she's giving some advice to Jeff here. And I love that support.
Lie.
And also supportive. You got between your kid and drugs any way you could. And again, I love that. Again, that's the intrinsic flaw where the family is flawed, but they do genuinely love each other. And she's like, I understand completely what you did. What you did was crazy, but to protect your kid, you got to do what you got to do. So yes, then gives the advice to lie. Basically, Jeff wants to come clean about the house, about hitting Peter, about the whole 9 yards, and she warns. And again, what I love so much about two is that the two Pickle siblings are both going through divorce in really different ways. And I love that like, she's just announced the word divorce. Like she's going through it right now, and she's saying, "Look, trust me, you do not want to go through this," because she knows what she's in for. She has an idea what she's in for. Jeff does not. So she's trying to protect her brother here. In kind of how the siblings are linked, which is quite nice. It's saying, look, just learn. Like, don't think of it as lying. Think of it as a secret. Yeah. Of course, Jeff, he's not taking. He's like, thank you for listening. Though I love that again. He's like, thank you for listening, but he's still gonna go with it. He's intending on telling Jill regardless.
She just softly says, "Just fuck."
And again, Jeff Pickles' new mantra for understanding kids, what he learned from last season. Okay, I've listened to her, I'm receptive, but I still got to go with what I'm going to do. Okay.
All right. Meanwhile, in a car with the worst characters on the show, Dragon.
Again, they were on the upswing too.
I mean, yeah, I guess.
Compared to season one, I'm just saying. Compared to season one, I'm saying they weren't harmful to the show.
They're still dopes.
They are, no question.
I literally don't even know their names.
No, neither do I, because they're not important, Tiki. There's dopes.
So it's Will's stoner friends.
Yeah, Will's stoner pals. They're taken to the hospital, and basically they're continuing to fuel like all the rumors. I love it. If you notice, they're dressed in Mr. Pickles' costume, because essentially he had like a whole closet stocked full of the shirts and the shirts, the uniform, because he would like go to the house and go to work. That was his plan. That's kind of what he was planned on doing. Anyway, they're dressed in like the shirt and tie, and they're speculating that it was that sniper rumor was true. It's like the old Mr. Rogers sniper rumor they applied to the show. We're in the so of course Will's blaming his father here. Like, I can't believe my dad did this, God. Anyway, basically he's kind of using this to he's also heartbroken. It's kind of this. He's blaming his father. He's kind of blaming his father for the heartbreak he just suffered with the girl. Therefore, it's like, I'm gonna tell my mom about this, and she's gonna kick him, man.
Punch him in the dick.
Exactly. But again, it's just more so he's just directing his anger towards his father, and it's quite interesting the way they do that as well. And again, it goes really interesting places throughout the course of the series, and especially in this episode too. Once he gets to the hospital, you see what he does. So, of course, the idiot stoners here, they're kind of speculating he must pickle their body. What if he pickles the bodies of his victims?
Oh, God.
Which is kind of a foreshadow to episode 6, where he technically does pickle a body. Technically.
That's true. That's true.
All right. Okay, so Will's gonna tell Mom. That's the danger of the scene. Meanwhile, speaking of Mom, let's go to Jill. What's Jill up to?
So Jill's trying to get Peter into surgery as fast as possible. The nurse is trying to tell her we can't get him into surgery because the anesthesiast on call hasn't arrived yet. Peter is the anesthesiast on call.
Anesthesiologist, yeah.
Sorry, yeah. She's just like banging against the vending machine, just really, really hopeless. Jeff's coming in trying to deliver the bad news, but then she's saying that she needs to break the news about Peter to his Mormon family, who he hasn't seen in 15 years,
Because he's
on
a
the day of
Mormon.
right on the day of Christ's birth. Merry Christmas. Your son got hit by a car.
Oh,
I really
oh
like
my
that Jeff
God.
just like instantly sticks up to do it, to make that phone call, because that's absolutely something that Mr. Rogers would do.
Absolutely. Also, I just realized again, son hit by a car, another parable. Love it.
Ah.
Okay. So anyway, so she apologized. And this is crazy. Again, she apologizes to him. I'm sorry you have to go through this. And again, you see Jeff. Again, that's what I love I just love the conflict here where Jeff absolutely wants to tell her. He has every intention of telling her,
Mhm.
but again, it's like he decides to wait, and then Will walks in. Tiki, every time they play this music cue, again, I'm so PO'd that I can't find the soundtrack or the score for Kidding anywhere. I just because I love the
Well,
David Windows.
it's great. It's totally in line with all the other Michel Gondry projects, in terms of like he uses like stuff like the accordion, the harpsichord, and stuff like that.
I've always loved David Wingo's score, and he also does the score for
Hmm.
Barry, by the way, since you brought it up earlier. David
Yeah,
Win
yeah.
that thing, David Wingo, he always delivers. Every time he plays like this theme, like it's like a really emotional, deep theme. Oh god, I love like the comfort. Basically, when Jeff is hugging Jill, and then Will walks in, he sees his parents together, which is kind of like he realizes. He gets to bask in the old status quo before his brother died, before everything went topsy turvy and crazy. He's just kind of he's basking, and they have that beautiful. Basically, we have the elongated version of that theme I really love from Kidding, and it's like the most glorious version of that theme, and then interrupted by Will's drunk belch, and this I'm kind of drunk. So then Dr. Hernandez shows up, and I love the Christmas decorum of the hospital, by the way, because again, it's like we're really stressing like it is the worst night to ever have to go in for anything for the hospital because all the doctors they're busy
I
celebrating the
love that you
holiday.
just get a sense of like how urgent this thing is, and that like this guy literally like probably got called out from a party or something.
Yeah, he's
He's
wearing
just in
like.
this Christmas sweater.
And also, you'll notice there are a bunch of injured Santas and elves in the
Oh
waiting room
God.
too, which is a really great. I love that detail. I think there's a cop there. There's probably a story
Oh.
there, I'm sure, which would be great. Anyway, so basically, Dr. Hernandez, he's telling us that Peter is stable at this stage. He's lost a lot of blood. Jeff references he is a universal donor. Important plot point. But they're not. They don't know where they don't know where they are yet with Peter. They won't know until morning. So basically, he recommends they go home and then they basically will check back and we'll talk about the next steps in the morning. So hopefully he'll be up and talking by then. I love Jeff's discomfort here, where Jeff is like, "Oh yeah," but you see, basically Jeff is reminded now there is a ticking clock that you have to tell her because if Peter wakes up, then it's going to come from somebody else. So now the pressure's on even more for Jeff.
Sure.
Then we have like the cold and windy ride home. Realistic aftermath, folks. You kick out a windshield, there's going to be aftermath, especially on Christmas Eve. So Jeff, he's trying to break the news to her yet again. Again, that's what I love about this character. He's about to tell her, but he's then invited. The universe is rewarding him. He's invited to stay on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Playing that score again, that David Wingo score. Anyway, keep going. Sorry.
So she fixes a bed for him on the couch, and yeah, he's just really just feels really comfortable with the whole situation. They say goodnight to each other. They kind of give this cute wave.
So then the Jeff spots the Christmas tree, and basically he kind of gets a light bulb. Like, you know what? I'm at the house. I'm at the house we all used to share. Let's bring
Hmm.
back the old Christmas traditions that and the old Christmas traditions. As Jill is like, the darker reality is like Jill is calling the Zach Hauser family to break the news. But then we have again juxtaposed to this great sequence. Oh, I love this sequence to
This is also my favorite sequence in the episode, Dragon.
Yeah, so Jeff, he basically takes. It's a wonderful tradition. That feels like this time it might have been done in the Carey house, man. But then again, the Careys didn't quite come from money,
Right,
so I don't know if
right.
they'd be able to have like a staircase. Like the point being, it sounds like it's a really cool idea. So Jeff, he takes his boots and he dips them in like flour. Basically, he
Mhm.
replicates like Santa's footsteps going up the stairs, like like Santa kind of coming out from the snow, which is such a wholesome. It's such a one. It's like such one of the most original like Christmas traditions I've ever seen. I've never seen that before, and I thought it was great.
Unique Christmas traditions. Mark it down for the tropes.
Oh, I'm well aware. Then of course we have one of my favorite. I didn't get the name of it, but I love the classical song that they're playing. The old it's like kind of an art. I think it's a requiem that they're playing. I think it's from might be from Amadeus. I'm not sure. Point is they're playing like one of the old requiems as like da 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 da. It feels perfect for Christmas too, which is just
Mm.
haunting and nice. Anyway, so as he's going up there, doing a little tradition, the lighting changes when he like stomps the boot down yet again. Transitions, Tiki. We travel to the past of Jeff and Jill with their newborn twins on their first Christmas.
Yeah, one of them's crying. She's got him in her arms, and she's saying like, "Quick, wake the other one up, and they can harmonize."
Yes, yes. And then this is interrupted by Deidre, like, texting him on the phone, is he dead? So again, the reality of this situation compared to like the blissful Christmas memories of the past. All right.
All right, and holy shit, is this where we get the? No, I'm sorry, we get the
We
Will
will.
moment. I can't wait. I can't wait to talk
We're
about the
almost there. We're
montage
almost there. I'm
dragon.
excited for it too. We're almost there.
Oh God! All right, so Jeff sees a talk to me pickles
And
or
again, that's
whatever the
the
hell it's called.
That's I think it's talking because the other one's listening to me pickles.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Anyway, so importantly, the doll that symbolizes him not being there for his son during the whole the end of season one. So it's a nice little it kind of hanging like a noose almost too, which is a sad.
Mhm.
So he's looking for Will, and then I love his like little like in little foot in the door moment here where he says, "No one left cookies for Santa."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Which
nice.
it's
That's
I love the
nice.
intimate scene of the I love the intimate setting of the conversation. They're baking cookies on Christmas Eve. That's a fireside setting right there, man. You're cooking baking cookies for Santa, fresh cookies for Santa Claus, and there's a conversation with his son, which basically revolves around like he tells Will the truth and everything. Will's asking for answers, and Jeff tells him like I bought the house thinking it was a good idea at the time, so I could stay close to you and your mother. And again, seemed like a good idea at the time, really wasn't.
And then he asks about Reagan. I would have been 16 at the time. Doesn't answer my question.
I do love. I don't believe he was. By the same token, again, 16. I love they didn't answer though. I just love his adds like the. It's adding the air of mystery, but it's not like a realistic air of mystery. But again, I like that later on flashbacks we see him with the gun, with the BB gun. So it's little
Mhm.
little hints. All right, so Will burns himself on the cookie and he curses, which of course brings back a runner from the first season. Please don't use a bad word. We can use a good word. But Jeff stops himself this time. What does he say?
He says, "Please don't use a bad word unless." Wait, no, hold on. Sorry. Only use a bad word when no good word will do.
Okay, that's a huge setup for one of my favorite moments of the entire
Oh
episode.
yeah.
Huge.
That's something I caught up on. I caught on a rewatch, Dragon. I didn't even notice that
I
that was
know.
a setup
It's
before.
so great, right? So again, importantly, Jeff becoming a new man with the season, he's updated his philosophy where again maybe cursing is warranted. Basically, maybe we need to indulge the realities of we need to embrace the realities of the world, but we also need to embrace them with a positive spin. That's kind of what his new mantra is, in a sense, for the season. That's kind of what it is, where we have to acknowledge our faults, but we have to talk about them. We can't just like you can't just ignore them. Okay, so right. Okay. So basically, Will. It's a nice bonding moment between him and his son here, where Will is saying, "I'm not going to tell mom," but again, Jeff comes in with, "No, I will." It's important to be honest, and again, he's imparting a really important lesson to his son here. It is important to be honest, and again, he's absolutely fully intentioned here.
Mhm. All right, and then in comes Dragon. This is like the if Better Call Saul were to have a Christmas montage, it would probably be something like this in terms of
So
the editing.
So we have this warm and fuzzy transition here where Will says, I like you and Mom together more than you are apart, which then leads to this warm and fuzzy music that fills the room, and we transition from father and son bonding while making cookies to Christmas morning, which starts with There Is No Christmas Like a Home Christmas by the great Perry Como. It's not Christmas without Perry Como, kids.
And Dragon, honestly, man, the great thing about this montage where, Jill kind of stumbles down, she sees all the presents lined up and everything, and and Will and Jeff are making breakfast, and
the NPR, the NPR apron.
Right. Oh God, I forgot about that.
Great. But yeah, seriously, it's this magical holiday sequence. It's like hope for the holidays in the trying times of today and what they're going through right now. And basically, it's like Hallmark legitimized. It's the best way I could economize with this whole. It's Hallmark legitimized. It's like if we imagine.
But what I love about it is at first she's like, I'm not sure if we'll have time for breakfast and presents, but Will says like there's always time for Christmas, and then we just get right into it, Dragon. We're talking cookies, we're talking breakfast, we're talking adorable presents. I didn't have time to shop, but I bought you a lamp. It must have really set you back. You bought your light bulbs. You bought a light bulb and everything. Big spender.
Then of course, like ravaging around the house.
What's great about it is that in just a couple of minutes, it almost makes you forget about the dire situation going on around them. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's such a well-produced montage that you just kind of get sucked up into it. You're just like, oh, this is perfect. This is like they're together again. It's so good.
You know what I got on the rewatch, Tiki, that also, I'm head over heels for the sequence, but I also saw something in the sequence too, where there's a bit of charm versus reality, where we kind of see why Jeff and Jill, and especially by the end of the thing, we know they're not quite going to work. I mean, you kind of want them to get back together because, again, you love the life they have. We get a glimpse of the status quo right now. There's a wonderful status quo we're looking at right now. But by the same token, again, it's kind of the charm of Jeff Pickles, and again, like, Jill loves Jeff, she does, but it won't work. But right now, it is absolutely distracting from Peter, which is kind of the point. That's kind of like it's the dulled edge of the scene where, again, we're distracting from Peter, which is absolutely what Jeff wants. But again, remember what put Peter in that situation, so you can't forget that.
Uh-huh.
So again, we have the wrapping gag, and of course, after the lamp with the bulb and everything, big spender, we have the dog. Is it a bike? Did you peek? Well, God, so such a charming, wonderful idea. Then we have the money shot of the gingerbread house, which I love the idea. It's implied to me that Jeff Pickles constructed that gingerbread house overnight, by the way.
Right.
With a little Santa Claus on top, a customized, like one of those Netflix baking show level gingerbread houses, with the perfect like puppety oven mitt that he made on the fly to give it googly eyes and a Santa hat, and basically used like as a Godzilla like monster eating the Santa Claus. And it's like, no Christmas like a home. It's so wonderful. The most uplifting holiday montage. So again, this is here's the other thing I kind of got on the rewatch too, because this is the Christmas they should have had after the death of Phil that they didn't have. Because he was being Mr. Pickles, there's that Christmas where he just wasn't home. This is what that Christmas should have been. That's what's kind of wonderful about this too. Jeff Pickles got a taste of one last Christmas in the old status quo, as well as kind of seeing what his life should have been.
Sure. All right, but then abruptly, Dragon, we get a phone call. Jill just rushes out of the house. Oh boy. Just snap back into reality, Dragon.
Was it the hospital? Which is the... And also, I should mention this too. Like we have a holiday breakfast moment that would make Walter Jr. cry, where we have a pancake Santa Claus with like strawberries for the hat, bananas for the eyes, and like whipped cream for the beard. It's like this is Walter Jr.'s like fever dream, the Christmas fever dream. This is like the sugar plums in his head would be dancing about.
Sure.
Okay, so Peter, I love this visual so much. I don't understand. I love the visual of all these Mormons in Christmas sweaters with personalized Christmas sweaters with their names on them. So Peter's family of all the quote unquote devout Mormons, because we find out there is a little chink in the Mormon armor here. Mormons in these personalized Christmas sweaters, which it looks great, perfectly. It was great, and of course the mother with Peter's sweater, which is also a great idea. Just instantly hates Jill because Jill had to deliver this bad news and just hasn't met her, and it's like, oh, it's horrible. And basically, Jill's being really rational, explaining the hospitalese of it all.
I kind of feel like this mother is like Margot Martindale-esque.
A little bit, yeah, you're right. There's a little bit of a Margot. Yeah, if you watch. I see. Again, I can see, like, especially if you watch Sneaky Pete. If you watch Sneaky Pete, you saw a little bit of that. You used to know what I'm talking about. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. So the point being, Jill kind of explains what the doctor does, and the doctor confirms that Peter needs a liver and he needs it fast. And basically, so fast that the people in this room are the only options. Like that fast, man. Of course, not only that, the people with the same build, because we have to explain why Jeff is kind of on the chopping block here, because it has to be with the same build, same gender, and same acceptable blood type. Which, of course, I love this in the rewatch too. Like Will and Jeff have this exchange where, again, Jeff kind of knows where this is going, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
And Will also sees this, and again, this is a big moment where the son is judging the father. He's like, okay, my father is kind of built as like the icon of like what men should be. Again, the whole sainthood thing, like. What kind of life is that for like? I wouldn't want to be in his position. I wonder how my father's going to react to this. And again, it's like Jeff in our shoes. Like Jeff doesn't want to be on the chopping block, but he knows he kind of has to be there for it, which is so interesting, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
All right. So we have one.
So I love Bart. This son, by the way, man, he just. I don't know, just the casting is perfect. He just, for some reason, he just totally is just like, I buy him as Justin Kirk's brother so much. I don't know. Looks like it's up to me then. Oh, thank you, Bart.
So then Bart has a problem here because the doctor reminds him of a very important hospital fact. What is that important hospital fact?
You can't have any drinking for the last 72 hours.
Not have had an alcoholic beverage in the last 72 hours. And of course, we learned because he and all of his Mormon brothers and I feel, were there any sisters there? Pointing at all the more.
I don't know. Not that I recall.
I don't think so either. Anyway. The point being, the whole Mormon family, if you will. I won't get into the specifics. They've all cheated with some what is it? Some like a Hungarian palinka. I think it's Hungarian palinka, some sort of fancy.
Palinka, yeah.
Hungarian palinka. They all cheat because basically, I think the idea is the tradition for them on the holidays is they kind of break the Mormon vow. Like when mom goes to sleep, they all kind of take a swig of the Hungarian palinka and then bury the bottles in the backyard, which is crushing
the pet cemetery. In the pet cemetery.
You're right, in the pet cemetery.
Well, now your brother's gonna die.
Which again, of course, then Will's like, "What's palinka?" Of course, one. I love that line too. So Jeff is now outside. Of course, Jeff's outside to process things, and again, he's like Jeff is presented with an amazing crossroads. This is the whole cornerstones of the episode here. So this is one of the huge moments of the episode. Jeff is, it's beautifully visualized, Jeff's crossroads right now. As he walks outside the hospital, he finds a baby hat. And then we have this, oh God, I'm so in love with this. We have this flashback of Jill loading the kids in the car. And she's in the driver's seat, which again, given what happened to Phil, is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Again, given how season 2 has to end, is also very interesting. Anyway, so she's loading the kids in the car. She's excited to get home, and of course, again, the irony of Jill behind the wheel. Anyway, so the temptation. Basically, Jeff is presented with the temptation of the happy future within the past. That basically things are aligning right now. That his past may now come back to him. The idealism of the past may come back to him. He gets to go home and be a dad because she's as wonder. Oh God, just it's so wonderfully emphasized by Jill here. Like, come on, Dad, which again mirrors the whole mom thing earlier on.
Yeah.
So again, they're a team. So again, basically, the moral quandary here, which is my favorite thing. Deidre said Jeff needs to be able to tell a lie, and again, he just needs to tell one simple lie, or basically withhold the truth. Doesn't even have to fully lie; just has to withhold the truth. One lie from Jeff Pickles, the icon that is Jeff Pickles. He gets everything he wants in life. He gets everything he wants. He gets to reset the status quo. He gets his family back, and gets a taste of the Christmas that he missed out on, that he just had this morning. Got a taste of what that life could be like with the pancakes and everything, but at the cost of one man's life that he put in that situation. So that, I love that as like the framing of the quandary. And also, if you think about it, the man's family kind of failed him. So again, Jeff is like, it's not entirely, that's the thing, like, his family failed him, okay? It's like they had a vow versus Jeff Pickles upholding his own vow, which is also kind of interesting.
Sure.
You can have like the TV icon with his like own vow to protect being the moral authority here versus like the family's like they lapsed in their vow. The man's outdone the Mormons, which is kind of interesting. Again, when you're looking at the whole saint savior thing of it all, he's outdone the Mormons.
Oh, also, Dragon, I want to point out like a really, really subtle Mormon gag that I caught on the rewatch where basically basically the mother's calling Jeff out aren't you separated? Yeah, I'm sorry. Basically, it's are you still married? Yeah. Are you still married? My husband and I are separated. Well, I heard a rumor that he was Mormon. Isn't your husband Mormon? So, little very light polygamy joke there. Very, very subtle polygamy joke.
Yep, and also again, pointing out like what they really get into like in the second episode of the season, that people make fun of Jeff because he dresses like a Mormon.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so importantly, in this visual sequence, so perfect. He just puts the hat down. He walks back, and again, such a well-directed sequence. Him walking away from the path that he wants in life.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm
no, it's fine. It's fine. He's walking away from the guy. It's like I like how in this moment the two timelines kind of converge with Jeff walking back into the hospital with the car in the parking lot.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so then of course, after they're squabbling over the semantics of the relationship status and all that sort of stuff, then we have Jeff. There's no running away from it now. Jeff takes Jill and Will aside to tell them the truth, the hard truth. And I love that we don't because I know for any newcomers, again, why would they be coming into season 2? They're not going to know, but again, per the recap for the first season, we know the truth. So importantly, we perfectly capture this moment in that we don't do the same information over again. We kind of saw it unfold. We kind of recapped at the very beginning of the thing. I mean, even just we saw him get hit by the car again, so we know what happened. Even just one episode. So what does Jeff say? Jeff again, he calls back if a good word won't do. I only use a bad word when a good word won't do. What does he say?
He says, "I fucked up."
Which again, hearing him say that, and again, he's using the F-bomb when he absolutely
it's so appropriate. It's so appropriate.
And then basically we see the reaction from the outside. We don't hear him go through the whole thing. Basically, we kind of see the reaction. You already know it's serious. And that moment, I effed up. That tells you everything you need to know, and like that shows you the severity. And it's like, oh god, it's so fantastic. And then this beautiful moment. It's an undersold moment because the I effed up is the big star moment of it all, and I have no qualms with that. But I love this little moment with Jeff and Lily and the mother, Zach Hauser's mom. So we have the big saint savior moment here where he walks up to her, being the savior of her son, the salvation of her dying son, walks up to her, picks up the sweater with his name on it, with Peter's name on it, gives it to her, nicely folded up and everything. And she says, "Oh, by the way, we're big fans of your show." It's like, oh my, that's what I'm saying. That's the whole saint thing of the season in one moment.
Totally.
Yes. So then Dr. Hernandez, he sits down with Dr. Hernandez. You take us through the Hernandez thing.
Yeah, so he's sitting down with Dr. Hernandez. Hernandez is making sure he hasn't had when's the last time you had a drink? And he calls back to June 21st, 2003. Wow, that's amazing. How do you know the exact date? It's the day I got married.
And he says it so lovingly too. I mean, once you realize. And again, this is Jeff right after he blew up his own life, and he knows he's blown up his own life in part.
Right.
So then we have this perfect full circle moment where Jeff, it's like in pre-op essentially. He's putting the stuff in the bag, and before he zips up the bag, he gets a phone call. And again, kind of like Destiny calling yet again. So he gets a call from the Pickles, a different chapter of the Pickles platoon from
Austin, Texas chapter. Yeah.
Yes, and of course, it's like the Merry Christmas, and like, hey, this guy worked up enough points, and it's a Noah, I think. It's Noah. Anyway, so Noah.
Yeah, it's Noah. Yeah.
It's like, hello Noah, have you been a good boy this year? Which then leads to this cutesy kid delivery of a really important plot. Just like, there's a haunting, a beautifully haunting moment that's perfect for a Christmas themed episode. And I love that it ends here where um, it says, "Have you been a good boy this year?" And again, it's basically saying in that moment so hauntingly and beautifully, like Jeff is doing the right thing here. He sacrificed his own happiness for this, but again, the right thing doesn't absolve the sin,
Mm.
which is just genius. I love it.
All right, so there you have it, folks. This is, I can already tell you right now, this is going to be the least viewed podcast in Christmas in
I
July
know.
history, probably. But you know what? It's a vanity project, Dragon. This is therapy for us. We need this. So,
Yes.
final thoughts, Dragon.
Yeah, final thoughts for me. Not only an ironclad opening for season two, but there's the fascinating character study in less than 30 minutes. I mean, we're taking the moral icon and framing a dilemma in such a simplistic yet yet severe terms. It's like simplistic yet such a severe, like, again, happiness versus a man dying at the cost of a man dying. I love it. The Christmas setting aids in the kind of the great basically the crux of the season arc, with again Jeff Pickles being kind of the whole saint savior thing, and kind of aligns with Christmas in one sense of the word, but also the dressing of Christmas is really good. The framing of family around Christmas, that's also really big. We frame things really wonderfully around the holiday season, and also as the big payoff of the Christmas season being a really profitable time for the brand, and all that payoff, I think it all wonderfully is set in the Christmas season, not just arbitrarily. It's done really well. It's also about, again, being a saint or savior is an impossible standard that basically will lead. Basically, you're doomed to get messy and fail with if you try to live up to that. And sainthood isn't about. I think ultimately what we kind of say in this episode even is that sainthood isn't about being perfect. It's about doing the right thing despite your flaws, not because you're not because not because it's your duty, but because that's who you are, because you feel this way, not because like you're a saint, you must do this.
Yeah, 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 sure.
Like that. So I love seeing his sacrifice, seeing him sacrifice the life he wants for Christmas is a heartbreaking, but is such an admirable moment. I salute the show to. I salute the episode too. His gift but his gift in the episode was like that one last taste of Christmas in the old status quo, which is such a beautiful moment, such a stand-up moment. I adore this episode, man. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely a niche pick, to be sure, and it's not like one of those Christmas specials that you can just watch without context, because this series, this episode in particular, really does kind of rely on, like, you need to know the context of what comes before, and it's even better when you know the context of what comes after. You know what I mean, Dragon? So this really is like, it's not just an entry level piece for Kitty, and you really do need to know the show to fully grasp this thing. But for what it is, it's amazing. I mean, the transitions really are the thing that really sticks out to me the most. How we go from like these hard cuts. I want you to think about this, Dragon, for a second. We go from these hard cuts between the past and the present, right? The dire situation to to the happy memories. And then with the No Place Like Home for the holidays, it's like we kind of get like, oh, look, it's like a happy new memory. It's like, this feels like a flashback, but it's not. And then in that last moment that you love so much, Dragon, the two kind of converge with each other. So just structurally, that's just really great stuff, really great. Performance-wise, this is like easily one of Jim Carrey's best standalone episodes of Kitty, just because of all the turmoil and guilt and mixed emotions he's going through. Just it's written all over his face. Just it's got so much great kind of Christmas iconography to it. It's wonderful. It's great, and no one's gonna watch it.
Now, speaking
All
of that
right.
iconography, we should probably recount some of the tropes.
Indeed, indeed. All right. So, oh god, there's a lot of them here.
Right.
Um, Christmas Crisis for one.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Again, Christmas carols, again, with the whole choir of the kids calling in. Christmas song, obviously, with the Perry Como of it all. Again, any Christmas till Perry Como enters.
Cookies, Christmas morning, opening presents.
Gingerbread house.
Of course.
Uh, Gifts found around the house. basically the
I
makeshift
don't
Christmas
necessarily know
opening.
if that's a trope. That's like
Oh
a.
no, that's a trope. I've seen that other
Have
places.
you?
It's
Okay.
around the
Okay.
house, like basically a Christmas where you. Yeah. Anyway, so anyway, let's see. Just we had a little bit of snow. We had like Christmas decorations, like outside the Christmas
Mhm.
lights and stuff around the place. Of course, running over Santa Claus. There's that too. Let's see. I mean, again, unique Christmas traditions like the boot thing. I think you might have mentioned that already. But, yeah, like the. Okay, let's see. Christmas sweater, gobs of Christmas
Oh yeah.
sweaters.
Oh yeah.
Uh, a Mormon Christmas. There's a new one for you. A
Sure.
Mormon
Sure.
Christmas.
Sure.
You don't get much of that these
God.
days. Uh,
Also, one could consider Jeff saving Peter to be a Christmas miracle.
there you go. Yeah. Let's see. Kind of a hospital Christmas. I mean, that happens sometimes. Basically have like kind of the dire. But yeah, he said he has said with crisis, but by the same token, it's like the Christmas shift at the hospital. It's kind of
Mhm.
a bunch of injured Santas. Basically, Santa Claus is hanging around the hospital, which we kind of saw with Alf. Santa
Right.
Hospital and charity stuff. I'm trying to think if there's anything else major. Just
We covered it.
I think you're right. Point being, this the whole Christmas breakfast of it all. That pretty much a lot of tropes there. Okay,
All right.
Tiki, I just I just beside myself in one element, Tiki, is that we've had such a great time talking about kidding, and of course that there's no place like no Christmas like a home Christmas of it all. But I just wish we need a name that just is as genius as this episode we just talked about, man. We just need like a name that's like put that on a bumper sticker. We need a name that's like what are we doing here, man? At the end of the day, we're just talking about. We're talking about the holidays. We're kind of looking at these tropes. We're just kind of basking in like what it means while it's hot as the dickens out there. We want to think about the cool times of the holidays. But you know what? It's like we can only have like a scientific process. Man, I'm beside myself. Do you have any ideas? Because I'm plumb out, man.
How about putting the mistletoe underneath the microscope?
I dig it.
Next time on Christmas in July.
Fa la la la
La la la
la la
la
la
la la.
la.
Well, now your brother's gonna die.